Namaste. This is Timothy Halloran. I'm an astrologer from Savannah, Georgia, and this is a weekly astrological forecast. This is for the second week of September 2015, and today is Monday the 7th. And I'm very excited and honored and relieved to be departing the message that I'm going to share with you all today, as we are going to be talking about the approaching eclipse season. And we're going to be focusing on the upcoming solar eclipse that is this approaching Sunday, September 13th. So it's this special time, it's this game-changing time, it's this time of redirection, of changing of fate. Now 2015 in itself has been a majorly game-changing year. And we can basically say that this month is like another game changer, maybe kind of the final big changer of this year. And we're really feeling this big energy shift that's happening right now, as we are feeling the closure of many cycles, the initiating of many cycles that are going to take us into the future. So we have some rather deep underlying discussion that we need to mention, talking about archetypes, talking about the underlying energy of what is Virgo, what is Black Moon Lilith, what is Chiron, as these are the main archetypes that we're talking about with this approaching solar eclipse. And the solar eclipse in astrology is seen as a super new moon. It is a new moon that places a focus on the collective consciousness for the upcoming next 6 months. So this is a time of wrapping up cycles, beginning new cycles that do carry us very far. So we're going to kind of whip through this week's transits, and then we're going to talk about this eclipse, and then we're going to talk about the stories of these underlying archetypes. So what's going on this week? Well, a couple days ago we had our 4th quarter square half moon in Gemini, and on Sunday, a couple days ago, we had Venus turn direct. So Venus retrograde is officially over. And Venus is still stationed right now, but she's going to start picking up pace this week, and through the next approaching month, she is going to be rising, ascending, moving out of her shadow phase and entering into Virgo the second week of October. So she is now busting out of her retrograde, busting out of the underworld. Simultaneously, we have Saturn transiting out of Scorpio next week, another transit depicting a busting out of the underworld. Now yesterday we had the moon move into Cancer. Tomorrow that moon moves into Leo in the evening. On Friday that moon moves into Virgo in the morning. And then on Sunday, 2:41 a.m. Eastern Time, we have a solar eclipse in Virgo, 20 degrees and 10 minutes. Now what also we have going on this week is tomorrow we have Mars exactly in trine with Uranus. This is this very excited, progressive energy that wants to keep pushing forward into the new, initiate and invent new cycles, new ideas. There are realizations that are changing the game. There are shifting around that are changing the game. It can be spontaneous, it can be sudden, and things do not go back to the way they were before. Rather, they change and we initiate something new from this point on. Now on Wednesday we also have Mercury in Libra square to Pluto. And this Mercury will be square to Pluto on the solar eclipse, which does give us this kind of critical, penetrating mind. And we can be thinking deeply, having deep conversations, important conversations. And Mercury being in a closing square to Pluto, causing us to go deeper, to realize something that takes our mind deeper, to have an understanding that opens up these new vistas of possibilities. This is what we're talking about this week, okay? And then like we said, it's all approaching this solar eclipse in Virgo on Sunday that is going to be opposite to Chiron in Pisces. At the time of this solar eclipse, we will also have Black Moon Lilith. The true position of Black Moon Lilith will be exactly conjunct the moon's north node at the exact moment of this approaching eclipse. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about Virgo. There is all of this energy pushing into Virgo. There's this exciting, spontaneous swapping of energy that's going on these next couple weeks, and it can feel surreal. It can feel strange. It can feel overwhelming. Sudden energetic shiftiness can really affect people, particularly people who are sensitive to energy. This can make us feel a little uptight. Oh, there's a lot of stuff happening in a short amount of time. And it's good. It's very good what's going on. Saturn is in the 29th degree of Scorpio. Saturn has been transiting Scorpio for nearly the last 3 years. And this transit of Scorpio has been talked a lot about astrologers and frowned a lot at by many people and by many astrologers, because Saturn in Scorpio has been, you know, it's intense, it's tough, it's about digging up, it's about taking back more power. But the way we take back our power, our authority, which is really coming from our soul, oftentimes requires diving into our fears, our insecurities, those things, those situations, those ideas, those distractions that take power away from us, has been what we have been diving into and in confronting for the last nearly 3 years. And now that long-term phase is very quickly and rapidly culminating and completing, which means that this Scorpio energy is wrapping up, and it's like there's 5 minutes left on the clock, and we're drilling, we're pushing out what still needs to get pushed out. All this Scorpio energy is about purging, purging, purging. Get rid of fears, get rid of insecurities. What used to hold you back, we're still vomiting this up. It's like the last couple days of this, get this stuff out of here. Simultaneously, new energy is now pouring in. And this is the Virgo energy. And guess what? This energy is fresh, it's new, it's clean, it's spaciousness, it's calm, it's peaceful, it's subtle. But this energy is pouring in as Scorpio is pouring out, and we can feel like we are just in the middle of a dishwasher or a washing machine, and stuff is getting ripped around, torn around, and this is taking us somewhere brand new. Eclipses align with the moon's nodes, and those nodes are called the fingers of fate. They decide where we are going as individuals, as collectives. This is necessary to learn. This is called evolutionary necessity. Evolutionary necessity means that it is destined to be looked at. Yes, this is often called the finger of fate, the finger of God, pointing where we need to go. And it is fated because evolution needs to happen. And so the moon's north node is going to be transiting into Virgo in a couple months. We've also got Jupiter just pushed into Virgo. Now we've got this solar eclipse happening in Virgo. We've also got a Mercury retrograde that's approaching. There's a lot that's shifting around here. But let's focus on this eclipse. This eclipse is like a super new moon, which means that we are sowing seeds of intention, which are going to blossom through the next 6 months. And it's very powerful. This is radical transformation and growth and change. And it is needed in Virgo. It is fated that Virgo receives the attention, the energy, the upliftment, the healing that the archetype of Virgo is going to receive through the next approaching year. As after this eclipse season, there's another eclipse season. And that's going to be in Pisces conjunct Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer archetype. The master healer is Chiron. So we need to talk about these fundamental archetypes and how they are working together. And it's very, very important to understand archetypes, because archetypes is the language of the soul. Archetypes were not made up by any particular culture or creed or tradition or time, culture, time on the earth. These archetypes exist within the human dimension. They exist within us. They were not invented at particular times. They are always referred to, coming back in on ourself. They are the fundamental building blocks that make everything. And yet these archetypes, often get misunderstood by people, and particularly in astrology. And all astrology is taking these archetypes and understanding how they actually come to exist in our solar system, in our universe, in our world. How do these archetypes come to exist? Astrology and archetypes is the language of the soul. It's the language of God. However, what is sometimes misappreciated or misunderstood is that these archetypes are also fully conscious living personalities. The planets are fully conscious living personalities. So we've heard of angels, we've heard of demigods, we've heard of nature spirits. These archetypes are fundamental nature spirits. These are the demigods, these are the archangels. They're the fundamental building blocks, but they're also personalities. And the reason it's important to understand that the archetypes themselves, this is what the ancients referred to as the gods. They didn't mean that it was a polyamorous, so many different gods. It meant that no, these are the fundamental nature spirits. They are the gods. They run everything. They run the seasons. Yes, they're in control of these things. And they are personalities. And furthermore, they have stories and dramas and relationships with each other that is progressively evolving throughout time, similarly to us. So this understanding of archetypes and the gods is that the gods in their world, in their dimension, are also going through experiences that are causing them to learn and evolve, as all of us simultaneously are upward spiraling into greater and greater inconceivable levels of unconditional love. So the demigods, the deities, they also have stories together, they're also learning together, they're also evolving together, and they're not totally perfect, but they're extremely powerful and fundamental compared to us as human beings. Now the reason I'm bringing this up is because we're going to focus on the archetype of Virgo. And I want it to be understood that the archetype of Virgo is not simply a dead energy. It's very, very interesting how people can sometimes, refer to these archetypes and these things, and they refer to it as dead energy, like there's no personality. It's impersonal. And I'm telling you, they're very, very personal. This concept that we can somehow have personality and we can somehow have a sense of humor coming from what is impersonal is fundamentally mistaken. Our personality traits come from the personality traits of the builders and the creators of this world. God also has a personality and personality traits. This is what is meant by the quote that we were made in the image of God. We carry similarities personally to Him, and we also carry similarities personally to the gods. And being born out of these, being the children of these, we resemble them. So as the gods go through their dance and their play, and they heal and they evolve and they learn, we reflect their story here on Earth. And this is the simultaneous synchronicity of the planets making alignments that manifest here on Earth. It's not the planets causing this on Earth. The planets reflect simultaneously what's going on here on Earth because we are made of them. There is a similar underlying movement, a dance, a story that interconnects us all, an underlying essence. So what is this underlying essence and story going on there that is affecting us here? And how is this archetype of Virgo relevant to this? Virgo as an archetype is one of the least understood personalities, fundamental archetypal personalities that exists in our current situation. Virgo as an archetype represents the goddess. She represents femininity. She represents Mother Earth. She represents energy, systems, healing, hands-on healing, sexual healing. She is the high priestess, the witch, which means wise woman, which means medicine woman. This archetype has been the most beaten up and suppressed and ignored and shit upon archetype of them all throughout the last several thousands of years. And there's technical explanations for this. You know, we came from the age of Aries. That was where the patriarchy really took off. It was male dominant. And we see an inconjunct between Aries, Mars, the masculine, and Scorpio and Virgo. Scorpio and Virgo are the most misunderstood times during the patriarchy because it has to do with fundamental femininity, is sexuality, is the high priestess energy, and it also has to do with energy systems. So Virgo, as many of us know, is ruled by Mercury, and it's a strange rulership. Many astrologers are still looking for other planets to rule Virgo because Mercury seems like a strange rulership. Why? Because Mercury is this intellectual communication having to do with breaking apart, dissecting, and scientific understanding of the universe, rational explanation, logic, intelligence, etc. And yet Virgo is the earth, it's feminine. So what is this correlation between Mercury and the earth? That doesn't, Mercury's the air, intellect. It doesn't seem to really have to do with this high priestess Virgo energy, but it does. And it's because Virgo is energy systems. Virgo is the actual systematic approach, usage, function of energy. And Virgo also embodies and represents service to spirit, devotional service to other. There is a purpose and function for the arrangement and the structuring of energetic systems, and it is essentially service of the divine plan, of God's will. So Virgo as an archetype, we need to understand her as a personality. As this energy comes pouring in, this is her. This is her as an energy. So we need to talk about the goddess and how the goddess has been misunderstood, and as a personality she has become forgotten. When as a personality she has personal characteristics and traits. So we always hear about God, we always hear about God being a him. We've heard of the Hare Krishnas, we've heard the Hare Krishna mantra, and we know that Krishna is God. But do we know that Hare means goddess? And that mantra is really goddess God, goddess God? And yet who has heard of Srimati Radharani? We've all heard of Krishna, 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 God the Father, God the Father, God the Father, God the Father. Have we heard of God the Mother? Radharani is the goddess, and she is the personality of Virgo, and she does have personal characteristics. Her personal characteristics is that she is the most humble and serving and selfless personality in the entire existence. Is the archetype of Virgo, the goddess Radharani. She is the number one servant of God, and she gives to God out of her own selfless compassion. Is Virgo. Devotional service and compassion. She has other characteristics. She's shy. She doesn't, she kind of like veils herself. She keeps herself hidden. She doesn't want to be seen. She doesn't want to be honored and worshipped as the Most High. She doesn't want to have a congregation of people surrounding her and worshiping her, because so high and so sincere and authentic is her devotion to God. What has happened to Radharani, the high priestess, the medicine woman, the witch, throughout the last several thousands of years here on earth? Well, they were tortured, they were burnt at the stake, they were eradicated from our collective consciousness to the point where we don't even know who she is anymore. But she's coming to us now. And so the good news that I'm so excited to share with you is that there is going to be a bringing back of the goddess, a bringing back of the Virgonian energy, which is the archetype of medicine and healing. Before we can heal this planet and this earth, we need to heal the healer, who has been beaten and forgotten about for thousands of years. Sexual healing is one of the most powerful forms of healing in existence. Raise your hand if you know about it. Nobody knows about it anymore. In fact, it's been damned. It's been called evil. And now what happens This is another law of the universe. What happens when you suppress, when you damn a particular fundamental archetype and energy, such as Virgo? What happens when you suppress any part of nature? Is it does not go away. It becomes distorted. And it turns out we need the whole part of nature to feel satisfied, to feel like we are who we are. We need to include the whole part of nature and not suppress any of it. There is an actual purpose to distortions, and that is that those distortions are calling our attention back to what we originally suppressed. So for thousands of years, we have suppressed sexual healing. We have suppressed what the word Virgo is inherently supposed to mean, which is high priestess, which is a sexual healer, not even necessarily having to have sex using sexual energy can be a high priestess. That's what the word virgin originally meant before it became a chaste woman. It was redefined in order to suppress the Virgo energy for what Virgo actually is. And because we're so disconnected from our own healing, what's blowing up in the collective consciousness is sex, pornography. Men are addicted to it, that they're not getting the essence, they're not getting the healing. We've forgotten about the healing, and yet we still want that part of nature that has now become distorted. So you look into pornography and you see these women wearing costumes of French maid and nurse and nun. What are these archetypes representing? They're representing the Virgo archetype that got suppressed and ignored and now distorted. So we want the nun, the nurse. We want that servant healing energy, but we've forgotten it because we've disrespected it for thousands and thousands of years. And is that pornography really respecting it? Or is it kind of belittling it in a little bit of a weird, distorted way? In order to get to the essence of what we need, we have to go beyond the distortions. And that's been the purpose of the Saturn going through Scorpio the last 2.5 years. Digging up and removing all insecurities, all fears, all distortions that we think gets in the way of our spirituality and our evolutionary growth. This Saturn moving through Scorpio the last 2.5 years has been initiating us into a new level of personal power, being connected to our soul passion. And in order to do that, all of this digging up of fears and insecurities, what does this lead to? It leads to the ultimate understanding that those things that we think holds power over us, all the things we damned, evil, sex, women, succubus energy, this is all stuff we've damned in the past. Are those actually the things that hold power over us? We give our power away to things that actually don't hold power over us out of our own fears and insecurities. And so part of us taking back our own power is to understand that these things actually don't have power over us. And there's only one way to overcome any fear, any insecurity, any addiction, anything that we think blocks us from our higher spiritual growth. There's only one way to undo any of that stickiness, and this is what we've been doing. It's to go there, dive headfirst into the stickiness, the ugliness, the creepiness, the disgustingness, and love it. Love is the most powerful thing in existence. When you are situated in love, nothing holds power over you. You're not afraid of anything, because any of the stuff that it's a danger, oh, this is going to make you fall down, this is going to trap you, this is going to send you to hell. No, it's not. Not if you're situated in love. If you're situated in love, it's not the devil. It's little children who ran the wrong way and forgot who they are. So, love is the antidote. And now we're pushing out of Scorpio season, stepping into Virgo season, which is the archetype of devotional service. Now, Black Moon Lilith is tied into this. We talked about how Virgo and Scorpio in particular were the most suppressed feminine signs during the patriarchy. Black Moon Lilith embodies these archetypes majorly. She is the suppressed femininity. She's on the moon's north node at the time of the eclipse, which means it is fated. Time to get to know Black Moon Lilith. Who is she actually? Lilith was Adam's first wife in the Garden of Eden, who was kicked out because she didn't want to be submissive to Adam. That's the story. But there's an actual energetic, personal, archetypal story connected to that story. And that's that archetype of Black Moon Lilith, the Virgo, Scorpio energy. She has taken a wallop the last several thousands of years. Like we said, she was getting burnt at the stake, called inferior, called a succubus. You're a witch, you're not a medicine woman, you convert people to the devil. This is what happened to the archetype of Virgo. You're not a high priestess who heals people with sexual energy, you're a succubus. And you now need to be chaste and have sex with no men, otherwise you're dirty and unclean. This is all the fucking shit that's been put on the Virgonian archetype. And I'm not just talking about suns in Virgo, Mercury in Virgo, we're talking about the moons in Virgo, moon south node in Virgo, Pluto in the 6th house, having a stellium in the 6th house, or Vesta, a signature involving this Virgo energy. This is a year where you are going inside of yourself and you are realizing how much of the world had you wrong. And you're finding your true power within yourself. And you're coming back. And it is needed for the Virgos, for the high priestesses to come back, to find their power, to realize how the world was mistaken, not you. Time to come back. Time to take back your power. You are the healer. And guess what? We start proving people wrong in the long run. And I'm talking about ignorant people that are standing in our way. There is a way to move past this. You don't have to wait for everybody on earth to get it. You start being, you start proving who you are. You take back your strength. We are taking back our glory. There have been these horrible concepts prevalent in the collective consciousness. These are going to be changing long term over the next couple years. And this is why we talked about it last week. We talked about a fundamental change in belief system. The reason why I talked about that last week isn't because it's going to happen in a week. It's going to happen over a long period of time. The purpose of talking about this now is to sow the seeds into the collective, to get the idea out there that this stuff can radically change fundamental belief systems and perspectives. For example, there is a belief that heaven is somewhere else, and you have to work your ass off and then die, and then you get judged, and then you go to heaven. Well, how are you supposed to prove that wrong? How is it possible to prove that concept wrong? Nobody can prove heaven, blah, blah. You can. You prove that wrong by making heaven here. There you go. Tangible, first-hand experience. You can't deny it. Another concept that goes wrong is like there's only, obligated, qualified healers. Jesus was a healer. You have to go through Jesus. Bullshit. You prove that wrong by getting back into the Virgo archetype, and it turns out that when Jesus said, you can all do everything that I did, he wasn't bullshitting. There are hands-on healers. People can heal the blind, heal the sick. All of this is possible for any human being, so long as we follow in his footsteps, pick up our crosses, and if we have been doing the picking up our crosses, that's been Saturn and Scorpio the last 2-3 years, it's going to majorly pay off. And here is the main underlying message that's underneath it all, and I think is just the most important thing that we can remember, particularly those that are kind of in more graduate course levels of spirituality, which means that you get more severe tests of having your faith tested. Remember Jesus walking in the desert for 40 days? I mean, the tests get harder and bigger. So here's the underlying message. No matter what, God does not abandon his devotees. He does not abandon those who are humble, who are loving. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. What does meek mean? Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the humble. What archetype is being talked about here? Virgo. Blessed are the meek and the humble, for they will inherit the earth. What has happened for the last thousands of years is the archetype of Virgo, the archetype of Black Moon Lilith, and those individuals who have those signatures deeply within them, is for the last thousands of years, it's been about taking the shit stick, and out of love and faith for God, the witch got burnt at the stake, the medicine woman got trampled, and out of faith for God, we still continue to love, we still continue to serve. You don't abandon your truth. You don't abandon your faith of God in times like that, even when life seems like absolute hell, and that's where we're coming from. Blessed are the meek. They will inherit the earth. God does not abandon any of his devotees. Who is the supreme devotee is Srimati Radharani, the most selfless, compassionate, humble, shy, and healing, loving personality. And that is the personality and the characteristics of the goddess. She is veiled. She is so humble, so selfless, that she has been taking it up she has been getting shredded the last thousands of years. And she hasn't even complained. She has been down there in the ditch, getting dirty and covered with mud and getting tortured and beaten, and she has kept her faith the entire time. Those who put themselves first will be put last. Those who put themselves last will be made first. Those who were down in the ditches doing the dirty, messy work, I am happy to tell you that that was an initiation into a higher rung of spirituality and healing than anybody else can touch. The master healers are the ones that go through the intense work. And now is the time for the master healers to take a new birth. And we're going to see the next year the master healers come out of the woodwork. And majority of these master healers are going to be women. They're going to be the women that never knew they were the master healers. They were going to be the women who thought that, oh, that's funny that I'm a master healer. I thought that I was the biggest piece of shit because I'm coming from thousands of years of patriarchal conditioning where men have told me that I am evil and full of shit. I thought that's what I was. Turns out I'm a master healer. Whoa! This is a game changer. So this solar eclipse in Virgo is opposite to Chiron in Pisces. Now who is Chiron as an archetype and a personality? The closest earthly personality we can say that represents Chiron in recent history was Jesus. He represents the sacrifice, the giving, the healing of other people. But Chiron as an archetype underlays even this and existed way before Christ came. Chiron was the master healer in the Greek paradigm. And he suffers an eternal wound. He has this Christ-like, you gotta sacrifice yourself. There is pain, and pain is tied to becoming a master healer, is the understanding of Chiron. The understanding of Chiron is in order to have compassion and understanding of pain, you must know it yourself. We may have noticed that a lot of the 1% elites living in their mansions, ruling over the earth, have no compassion or empathy for anyone. Why is that? Because they've spent their entire life within the confines of a mansion and they don't know what poverty is. They don't know what empathy is because they've never experienced it. Where do you think their evolutionary journey is going to take them next? Anyways, the master healers are the ones who have submerged into pain and suffering. This is why the master healers are going to be born now, and they're going to be the ones that thought I was just a piece of shit. I'm coming from lifetimes of getting beaten up, told that I'm small, told I don't matter, told I'm inferior, told I need to serve men and be in the background and hide myself, because these are the women, are the personalities that embody that natural selfless compassion of Srimati Radharani. I'm going to veil myself. You're not even going to see how humble I am. I'm that humble. Well, Chiron as an archetype and a personality represents the universal healing energy. Christ consciousness. We know the story that Christ died for everybody. What does that mean, though? It means that the archetype here sacrifices himself to heal the fallen and the downtrodden, the underdog. Chiron as a universal healing force is eternally searching and in service to the fallen, the downtrodden, the underdog. This is why we see solar eclipse in Virgo. The fallen, the downtrodden, the underdog is Virgo. All the attention's on you now, Virgo. Why is that? Chiron is coming in to heal you. Chiron is coming in to restore you. Blessed are the meek, you will inherit the earth. This is Christ, this is Chiron speaking to you and saying now is the time. And this is going to change everything. This is a game changer. This is going to change our fundamental beliefs the world over. Because we're going to start proving to ourselves what the Virgo archetype is all about. And she's all about healing. She's all about devotional service. God does not abandon his devotees. Virgo represents the energy and the archetype of devotion to God. This is a very potent story that's going on at this time on this planet, and we are witnessing it happen. So for those of us who have gone through hard lives, those of us who have gone through a tough last 3 years, I have very good news for you. If you have been doing the work, if you've been getting strung up, getting sacrificed, getting burnt at the stake energetically, you felt like you've gotten shredded to pieces the last couple years, I've got good news for you. God does not abandon his devotees. Who are the devotees? The devotees are the one doing the hard work, allowing themselves to get shredded out of love for God. I came here to heal this planet that's fucked up. So I come here, I get shredded apart, and then my wisdom, my glory, and my healing capacity is revealed to me. Because God does not abandon his devotees. He doesn't send us to a hell planet to get stuck there forever. That's not what happens here. We might become temporarily convinced that that's what happens here. But that just leads us into being surprised. And that's going to be a really powerful surprise. Is this world being introduced to concepts, to realities, to energetic, miraculous healing that as a collective we fundamentally believe can't happen? And it can, and we're going to prove it to ourselves by stepping up to it, by becoming the devotee. This next year is about following the footsteps of Srimati Radharani, of Black Moon Lilith. Now is the time for us to get on our hands and knees and bow to those selfless servants who gave themselves for us. Now is the time for us to understand inherently that devotion and selfless service to the world and others is the most satisfying thing in the world. It comes out of unconditional love, and unconditional love eradicates all fears and insecurities. What does this mean? What's an example of this energy? Well, you've heard parents say that there is nothing more worthwhile than watching your own children grow up. And is it because you fed them and you raised money and you sent them to school that they grow up to be the miraculous nature that they already are? Is that what happens? No. That nature that is your children simply is. It's a miracle of nature. You don't do anything to make your children become the way they are, despite what so many crazy people think. That's nature happening. And it is humbling to see this. I am humbled. I am honored to be given these souls and to watch their beauty grow and to be given the opportunity to take care of them, to serve them, to feed them, to clothe them. It's not like, oh, I'm responsible for your nature, because no, I get to serve you and clothe you and love you because, my God, looking at how beautiful you are in your nature, there's nothing else I want to do. I simply set eyes upon you, and all I want to do is feed you and clothe you and love you till my dying days, and I lose all of my own sufferings and what's going on with me and my stress and my job automatically and effortlessly is gone. As soon as we step into devotional service, selflessness, compassion, and healing and looking to others. Virgo doesn't look to herself. She's always veiled. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. Look at him. He needs to be helped. Let's find the Virgo energy. The Virgo energy is pouring in. Let's know this Virgo energy. Let's learn about this Virgo energy. Let's be uplifted by this Virgo energy. Let's get beyond the veil. The veil is only there so that those who are worthy, who are initiated, who understand love can go beyond that veil and see her actual personality. Get beyond all the superficial, synthetic bullshit and get to the essence of what we actually want, the healing that we actually want. So this is where we're going. It's a radically exciting time. I am so privileged to be here to speak with you and to be feeling this happening. This is happening. So I'm going to provide a couple plant helpers to assist with this energetic shift that's radically going on these next couple weeks. And I'm really into the plant helpers and the plant spirits, and I'm going to be doing way more of this in the future. I like to experiment and figure out the underlying zodiac energy for these plant helpers. So these are going to be 3 plants that I'm recommending in order to step into Virgo energy, to learn about Virgo energy. And whenever we're dealing with plants and plant helpers, we're dealing with plant spirits. Once again, there's no such thing as impersonal energy out there. All of these plants have personalities. We can communicate with them, we can work with them, and they are healers. They're here to help us. But just like the rest of those Virgo healers, they're veiled until we are worthy to see behind that veil, until we are initiated. And that comes from being humble, by the way. Blessed are the meek. They will inherit the earth. You have to be, smaller than the eye of a needle to get into the kingdom of heaven. What does that mean? It means that we have to be humble. We have to be focused on others and their well-being. Is the gateway to heaven. And is heaven something that comes after we die? No. Heaven is something we prove to ourselves through tangible first-hand existence. So 3 plant helpers here to bring in this Virgo energy. I'm recommending Celastrus berries. Yes, and you can get Celastrus berry oil, extract, or tincture. It's very powerful. It's very focusing. It clears your mind. It brings spaciousness in there. It lets you focus on your work. It's great for meditation. And it doesn't tune out your intuition or your spiritual messages. So that's a very powerful Virgonian energy. I'm also recommending holy basil, Tulsi. In particular, I recommend Krishna Tulsi. Now, Tulsi is an adaptogen that you can take. You can drink her as a tea, and she, helps you adjust to your environment, gives you energy, etc. Very, very powerful medicinal herb. But as a plant spirit, she is a goddess. She is actually considered a gopi. She is another one of the Virgonian healers here on this planet, is holy basil. There's many, many stories of holy basil. You can go to the Vatican and see huge crucifixes made out of holy basil. So holy basil, Krishna Tulsi, is another magical Virgonian healing plant and plant spirit. You don't even have to ingest her. You can simply grow a holy basil plant, and that energy will be brought into your house, and you can speak with her, you can communicate with her, and she will help you heal. She is one of the most selfless, compassionate plant spirits that I know about. And finally, there's rosemary. Yes, rosemary, another focusing, uplifting, energetic plant, and it's, again, named after the Virgin Mary, and there's many stories associated with rosemary being connected to the Virgin Mary, and whose Virgin Mary is an archetype representative of Virgo. So let's put Virgo in the center, and then we'll start to understand why it's necessary to do so as a prerequisite to healing this earth. Let's heal Black Moon Lilith. She was turned into a succubus, into a demon, into a witch, and she is none of the above. She is one of the highest ranking devotees of God. So high ranking, she chose to take on that horribly painful and torturous role. Now is our time to respect her, to give reverence to her, and to heal her, which is the necessary prerequisite for any future healing to happen on this earth, and then we are going to be radically shocked with what healing is possible on this earth. So wishing all the best to you. Happy eclipse season. Enjoy the peace, the sanctuary that is pouring in. Yes, things are going to switch around radically. It's a game changer. It's going to be different and never be the same again. But we are moving into the new, the fresh, the subtle, the humble, the veiled. And this is going to be our teacher for the next year. So let's make it a good one. Wishing all the best to your beloveds. Namaste.